Those who know the right questions must reach those asking the wrong ones, and sometimes even the lost. I protect my identity because truth has a body count. Welcome to the Anarchist File. They told us success meant a salary and a title. They forgot to mention the cost. Your time, your soul, your curiosity sold wholesale for a parking spot and a corporate badge. Gen Z grew up watching their parents drag themselves through open-plan cubicles, pretending the fluorescent light was sunlight. Now they've decided that working yourself to death for stability isn't noble, it's just inefficient. The 9-to-5 dream died the moment the internet started printing money faster than HR could schedule a meeting. It isn't laziness, it's literacy. They read the fine print. They saw the generation before them follow the rules, get the degree, get the job, get the mortgage, and end up anxious, indebted, and medicated. So they stopped pretending the system was a ladder. It's an escalator that only moves down, no matter how fast you climb. The smart ones don't climb, they build elevators. You can call it rebellion, but it's really optimization. Why trade your 20s for someone else's spreadsheet when a camera, a laptop, and a brand can outturn middle management in 6 months? That's not arrogance, it's math. Productivity is the new religion, but the high priests are self-employed. The rest still worship at the altar of payroll, hoping exposure therapy cures resentment. Corporate culture keeps trying to rebrand obedience as teamwork, collaborative, mission-driven family. Everyone knows those are synonyms for unpaid overtime. The new generation learned early that loyalty is a one-way contract. The moment profit drops, family means you're fired. So they stopped pretending to care about vision statements. They care about leverage. They care about freedom measured in hours, not slogans. They care about whether the work compounds when they stop touching it. The myth of security collapsed, but something stronger replaced it: autonomy. Every young entrepreneur, content creator, trader, or coder chasing independence isn't avoiding work, they're pursuing control. They'd rather build 10 unstable income streams than one stable dependency. That's not chaos. That's diversification. The old system mistook conformity for virtue. The new one rewards audacity. If risk is inevitable, you might as well own the upside. You can see the mindset shift everywhere. People brag less about promotions and more about exits. They measure worth by flexibility. How long could you disappear before your life falls apart? The wealthy don't dream of retirement. They live like it already happened, where it became a tool, not an identity. But that's what terrifies institutions. A generation that shows up to the game without needing the trophy. Of course, not everyone escapes. The illusion of stability still sells. There's comfort in predictability. There's dopamine in direct deposit. But even the ones who stay employed see through the choreography. They side hustle in secret, learn in public, monetize hobbies. They've realized that attention is equity. An audience is a balance sheet. You can be broke in dollars, but rich in reach hand. In this century, reach converts faster. That's why the traditional hierarchy is fracturing. The old rich own factories. The new rich own influence. The old middle class rented respectability. The new one rents aesthetics. Status used to be gated by geography. Now it's unlocked by algorithms. The office no longer dictates prestige, the feed does. And the feed rewards competence wrapped in charisma. That's why quiet professionals feel invisible while loud amateurs go viral. The market stopped paying for humility. Gen Z didn't create this economy. They just stopped apologizing for mastering it. They understand the currency of perception. They know that presentation precedes payment. They learn that the first sale you ever make is of yourself, and pretending otherwise is hypocrisy. So they curate, they design, they broadcast. Every post is a resume, every metric is an invoice. The smart ones don't chase likes, they convert them. They treat clout like capital. Earn, reinvest, withdraw when the bubble bursts. The critics call it narcissism. They're half right. It's strategic narcissism, a survival mechanism in a system that punishes invisibility. When attention is scarce, self-promotion becomes civic duty. You either market yourself or you become someone else's marketing. That's the hidden symmetry between the influencer and the banker. Both arbitrage confidence. One does it with money, the other does it with identity. Still, freedom has a learning curve. The same tools that liberate can enslave. The kid who escapes corporate monotony by starting an online brand soon realizes he built a new cage with glass walls. Metrics replace managers. The algorithm becomes the boss. He measures his worth in engagement instead of salary. The same anxiety returns, just dressed cooler. That's the paradox of independence. You can quit the job but not the addiction to being measured. The ones who truly transcend it understand the rule of leverage. Work once, earn forever. They build systems that detach income from effort. They automate, delegate, compound. Their success feels unfair because it is earned through asymmetric understanding of time. They see that value isn't created by hours, it's created by insight. A single idea can outperform a decade of diligence. That's why the new elite isn't busier than you. They're quieter. They've outsourced noise. This is what separates the wealthy mindset from the worker mindset. The worker asks, how can I get paid more for my time? The wealthy ask, how can I decouple income from my time entirely? One trades the other scales, and scale is the only real measure of power left. In a world where information moves at light speed, patience became the new poverty. Action is the new IQ. Execution beats intention every time. The rejection of the 9-to-5 isn't laziness, it's evolution. It's a species adapting to faster cycles of reward. It's ambition freed from etiquette. And for all its chaos, it's brutally honest. No fake stability, no middle management, gaslighting, no pretending the company loves you. Just skill, supply, demand, and nerve. A meritocracy with no dress code. The older world calls it entitlement. The younger world calls it efficiency. Maybe it's both. But history won't remember the distinction, only the results. The ones who refused to wait their turn built empires while everyone else was still revising. The wealthy figured that out early. They don't compete for attention, they buy it wholesale. They use the platforms strategically, not habitually. Their social presence is architecture, not addiction. They post less, but profit more. Because they understand the first law of the attention economy. Scarcity equals value. If you're always visible, you're already cheap. True influence is measured by the number of people who can't reach you. The digital working class doesn't grasp this yet. They confuse engagement with importance. They think relevance means survival. But the algorithm doesn't reward you for existing. It rewards you for performing. The moment you stop dancing, the spotlight moves. You fade quietly, replaced by another performer who mistakes visibility for autonomy. The trap resets. The escape isn't to log off. That's a fantasy. The escape is to monetize strategically, to turn attention into equity. Build systems that work while you sleep, not profiles that demand constant feeding. Use the algorithm without worshiping it. Treat the feed like fire, useful for warmth, deadly for comfort. The ones who win are the ones who treat their audience like an asset, not an audience. You don't need millions of followers, you need leverage. 10 loyal customers beat 10,000 passive spectators. Influence measured in views is vanity. Influence measured in transactions is power. The people at the top of this new order know that. They move quietly, own infrastructure, and let the visible ones exhaust themselves performing. The loudest rarely last. The quietest rarely fail. What makes digital slavery efficient is that it feels voluntary. You think you're choosing the platform, but it's choosing you. It reads your fears, your hopes, your insecurities, then packages them back to you as opportunities. You don't apply for permission, you apply for exposure. The reward is a bigger cage. Each upgrade comes with a tighter leash, better analytics, more reach, higher dependence. Freedom of speech has become freedom of marketing. This isn't paranoia, it's accounting. Every scroll is data, every click is labor. You are the product, the worker, and the ad space simultaneously. No one forces you to participate, but good luck thriving outside the system. They've built a world where withdrawal looks like failure. So you stay, optimize, and justify it as hustle. You tell yourself you're leveraging the system, but the metrics leverage you. The truth is, you can't destroy the machine. You can only reposition yourself inside it. The goal isn't purity, it's asymmetry. Stop producing for free, charge for access. Automate the repetitive, turn attention into ownership, and most importantly, treat your digital footprint like real estate. Build in places that appreciate, not platforms that depreciate you. The next generation won't call it freedom, they'll call it strategy. The line between autonomy and addiction will define class more than money ever did. The poor will still work, but they'll do it for likes. The rich will still play, but they'll get paid for it. The difference will be ownership. The modern aristocracy doesn't need palaces. They just need dashboards. Love collapsed under the same pressures that broke everything else. Speed, scale, and saturation. People didn't stop believing in connection, they just got tired of chasing it through noise. When attention became the new gold standard, intimacy lost its currency. The market flooded, and feelings inflated until they were worthless. So now we have two revolutions happening quietly at once. One where men are opting out of courtship because the cost exceeds the return, and another where women are opting out of vulnerability because the world punished them for giving it away. Both call it focus or healing, but really it's austerity. The global economy of affection went on strike. Sex didn't vanish. It just industrialized. Bodies became subscription models. Desire became content. The line between romance and marketing blurred so thoroughly that even love songs sound like sales pitches. OnlyFans isn't an anomaly. It's the purest expression of the system. Direct-to-consumer intimacy, automated and scalable. A personal connection you can cancel monthly. The participants think they're liberated, but they're just small business owners in the empathy trade. Dating apps accelerated the decay. When attraction is measurable, it becomes transactional. You don't ask who am I drawn to, you ask who's available at scale. The swiping motion is the perfect metaphor for our era, casual elimination mistaken for choice. The language of romance turned into analytics, match rate, conversion, retention. It's capitalism wearing lipstick. The result is a paradox. A generation simultaneously overexposed and undertouched. They know everyone's highlight reel, but no one's scent. They can list attachment styles like tax codes, yet can't sit through silence. We learn to quantify everything, but they ache. Real affection feels awkward now because it doesn't photograph well. For men, the burnout expresses as withdrawal. They retreat into self-improvement, weight rooms, online tribes that promise clarity. They rebrand abstinence as focus, solitude as power. For women, it manifests as hyperindependence, a performance of not needing anyone. A fortress built from self-help quotes. Both sides are reacting to the same trauma, the commodification of trust. Yet nature doesn't care about ideology. It cares about polarity, about tension and release. When everything becomes equal, attraction collapses. The current dating market flattened difference until no one feels magnetized. Everyone's performing competence. Everyone's working on themselves, and no one's surrendering to anything. Desire suffocates under mutual defensiveness. The high-status individuals navigate this differently. They approach intimacy like capital, cautiously, strategically, but without guilt. They know emotional exclusivity has become the rarest luxury, so they ration it. They don't chase validation, they'll auction availability. A single gesture from them carries more weight because it's scarce. They understand that mystery creates gravity. The less you explain, the more people project. And projection is the last engine of romance left. Meanwhile, the masses binged cheap intimacy the way they binged streaming shows. Compulsively half-engaged, always scrolling for the next episode. They call it exploring my options, but it's really sedation. Quantity, as anesthesia. Every new partner becomes an ad break between the last disappointment and the next. This isn't moral decade's market logic. When supply explodes and demand stays constant, quality plummets. The hookup era was inevitable once technology removed scarcity. But as in any boom, a crash follows. Emotional inflation has reached unsustainable levels. People crave depth again, but they don't remember how to earn it. Patience feels like deprivation. Loyalty feels like risk. The next wave of desire will swing back toward restraint. Exclusivity will become couture. In private corners of the culture, you can already see the correction forming micro-movements, preaching slowness, analog dating, digital detox, real connection. But the early adopters will still treat sincerity as strategy. Even authenticity has an algorithm now. The only way to escape the performance is to stop broadcasting entirely, and very few can stomach that silence. The irony is that the technology built to connect us revealed what connection really costs. Time, attention, vulnerability, currency's too slow for modern speed, so most people trade them for convenience. But convenience sterilizes everything. Fast affection ages like fast fashion, shiny for a week, landfill by the month's end. The human nervous system wasn't designed for this turnover rate. Eventually fatigue wins. People either burn out or wake up. The ones who wake up rediscover a primitive truth. Intimacy isn't a reward, it's an investment. It compounds slowly and pays dividends. No algorithm can simulate. That realization feels revolutionary only because the culture forgot it. When everyone treats connection as optional, commitment becomes elite. Love and sex aren't disappearing, they're consolidating. The market is purging tourists and leaving room for investors. The next aristocracy of emotion will be small, discreet, intentional. They'll treat partnership as craftsmanship, not consumption. They want to brag about it online because they understand that privacy is what gives anything value now. The loud will keep performing, the quiet will keep winning, and the rest. They'll keep swiping, convincing themselves it's freedom, wondering why every victory feels like loss. Politeness is dying, and good riddance. For years the culture obsessed over tone, how to say things, how to soften truth until it felt safe enough to ignore. Now bluntness is currency again. People are exhausted from decoding hidden meanings. They want clarity, even if it hurts. The rise of the blunt isn't cruelty, it's efficiency. A generation that grew up on endless nuance finally decided honesty costs less than confusion. Every era produces its own masks. The last decade's masked with sensitivity. The next one's is competence. The public mood shifted from be kind to be effective. Empathy still matters, but only when paired with backbone. The internet rewarded outrage and emotional theatrics for so long that sincerity started to look like rebellion. The blunt speak in full sentences. They finish thoughts. They risk offense for the sake of precision. And precision, in a noisy world, feels like oxygen. It's not that people suddenly stopped caring about feelings. They just realized that constant diplomacy makes communication useless. When every word has to pass a committee of imagined critics, authenticity dies. The ones who dare to say what everyone thinks become magnets. They cut through the fog, take the heat, and walk away richer socially, financially, spiritually, because attention flows toward courage, and courage has become scarce. The woke phenomenon tried to monopolize virtue by moral branding. At first it looked powerful language, policing disguised as compassion, but moral inflation followed the same curve as every other market. Once everyone claimed sainthood, the badge loses value. People started noticing the grift, outrage without sacrifice, activism without risk, empathy used as currency. Performative morality became a luxury good, expensive, fragile, and useless in a crisis. Now the pendulum swings back. Audiences crave people who can describe reality without apology. The blunt thrive because they treat truth like capital, scarce, volatile, profitable. They understand that emotional fragility is a liability in negotiations, in art, in love, in life. They don't waste time arguing semantics. They build systems. They use words as tools, not signals. Their confidence feels refreshing because it's earned. Being blunt doesn't mean being cruel. It means speaking in net gains. It means refusing to let fear of misinterpretation outweigh the need for accuracy. The powerful operate that way naturally. The rest are catching up. The executive who cuts the meeting short, the creator who ends a partnership, the person who says no without an essay. These are the new templates for respect. The world doesn't punish directness anymore. It rewards it. The punishment now is indecision. Of course, bluntness without depth becomes noise. The trick is calibration. The new elite master timing as well as tone. They know when to hold silence, when to deliver precision, and when to leave entirely. That control separates charisma from arrogance. Anyone can be loud, few can be lucid. The internet amplified both tribes. The hypersensitive and the hyper-honest and forced everyone else to choose. Most people oscillate between fear of cancellation and hunger for truth. They scroll through moral theater until fatigue wins. Fatigue always wins. That's when people start paying for honesty. They subscribe to thinkers who offend them just enough to stay awake. They don't need agreement, they need clarity. What's emerging now is a cultural premium on competence. The blunt don't claim moral authority, they claim results. They speak the language of meritocracy, proof over posture. They build while others debate. You can disagree with their politics, but you can't deny their productivity. They remind everyone that the point of conversation is action, not applause. There's a reason corporations quietly hire pragmatists over moralists. Outrage slows output, precision scales it, the loudest virtue signalers create liability, the calm executors create value, the blunt earn trust because they conserve time. In any marketplace, time is the ultimate show of respect. That's why the new cultural capital isn't empathy, it's competence, paired with concision. Still, this clarity comes at a cost. The more people learn to speak plainly, the more exposed everyone feels. Old social contracts relied on polite fictions. Honesty burns those bridges. Families fracture over politics. Friendships dissolve over tone. But that cleansing is necessary. Truth has always been destructive before it's useful. You prune the branches before the tree grows stronger. What remains after the purge is efficiency of alignment. People gravitate toward those who match their tolerance for reality. Communities form around shared candor. That's why certain podcasts, creators, and entrepreneurs dominate. They offer what institutions no longer can: unfiltered perspective with practical outcomes. They teach through exposure therapy. Listen long enough, and you stop flinching at honesty. Eventually, the culture will stabilize. The blunt will refine their delivery, the sensitive will develop thicker skin, and somewhere between compassion and candor, actual communication will reemerge. But the old etiquette won't return. Once a generation learns that silence costs more than discomfort, politeness loses leverage. The next phase belongs to those who can integrate both sides. Empathy that doesn't lie, honesty that doesn't humiliate. The wealthy already operate there. They don't apologize for clarity, but they temper it with calm. They delegate emotion, automate friction, and keep discourse functional. They know that in any market, whether financial, social, or romantic, that blunt hold power because they reduce uncertainty. In the end, bluntness is just another form of efficiency. Truth told at market speed. It's not rebellion, it's adaptation. And adaptation, as always, decides who stays relevant when the noise fades. Every generation eventually redraws the map of meaning. Ours just did it faster because the world moves faster. We inherited institutions designed for scarcity and tried to use them in an age of excess. A mismatch broke everything: work, love, morality. On what's emerging from the rubble is a new hierarchy of values built not on obedience or ideology, but on autonomy. Freedom is the axis everything now revolves around, not the patriotic kind personal sovereignty. Control of time, control of attention, control of energy. Money matters only insofar as it buys those three. That's why the next generation of ambition doesn't look like accumulation. It looks like simplification. The goal isn't to own more, it's to need less. Luxury used to mean addition. Now it means subtraction. Minimalism wasn't a design trend. It was a philosophy of defense. People learned that every subscription, every obligation, every notification was a small tax on sovereignty. The rich didn't just buy things, they bought insulation, privacy, silence, distance. That's the real wealth gap now. Who has the option to disconnect without consequence? In a world that monetizes distraction, focus became aristocratic. Character followed the same inversion. Virtue once meant compliance, following rules, performing goodness. Now it means competence. Can you execute without chaos? Can you deliver under pressure? Can you create value without demanding validation? The market no longer cares how nice you are. It cares whether you compound. Good intentions don't scale. Systems do. The personal value system of this era is pragmatic spirituality. People aren't searching for gurus, they're building internal dashboards. Faith is measured in discipline. Sleep, diet, finances, boundaries. Meditation replaced confession. Fitness replaced penitence. The new temple is the routine. And while that sounds hollow to traditionalists, it's not nihilism, it's calibration. When external institutions collapse, self-regulation becomes sacred. Relationships are adjusting to that rhythm. The new loyalty isn't possession, it's alignment. Two independent systems running parallel because they choose to, not because they have to. Dependency died with job security. Partnership now means complementary freedom. It's harder, but it's cleaner. You don't own people, you build with them. Love becomes investment, again measured not by intensity but by endurance. Morality, stripped of collectivist pretense, is returning to consequence. Actions judged by output, not optics. A quiet renaissance of accountability is happening under the noise. People are tired of apologies. They want competence. Tired of outrage. They want order. Tired of symbolism. They want sovereignty. The new moral elite won't be the loudest, they'll be the most reliable. The person who does what they say will outshine the person who says what's fashionable. All this feels cold only to those who mistake emotion for empathy. The truth is, stability allows for deeper compassion than chaos ever did. The person in control of themselves has bandwidth to care for others. The chronically unstable can't. That's why self-mastery is becoming the highest social duty. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's contagious. Composed people stabilize rooms. That's the quiet revolution happening beneath the noise. Competence spreading faster than ideology. Art and media will follow this trajectory. The audience is aging out of outrage. The next wave of influence will be calm, not chaotic. Precision over performance, substance over signaling. The same people who once built personas to impress will start building frameworks to teach. Knowledge will replace confession as content. The most magnetic figure will be the one who knows, not the one who feels. Society will still divide itself, but along new lines. The distracted versus the deliberate, the reactive versus the reflective. Everyone will have access to the same tools, but not everyone will have the discipline to use them. Attention will stratify like land once did. The upper class of the digital age will be those who command it. The rest will rent theirs out in the gig economy of entertainment. Eventually, the world will stabilize around a new equilibrium. Fewer illusions, more leverage. People will stop pretending equality means sameness. They'll rediscover hierarchy as natural, not oppressive, based on contribution instead of coercion. The healthy hierarchies will be transparent. Competence on top, dependency at the bottom, with mobility earned through discipline. Harsh maybe, but at least honest. When that happens, cynicism will fade. Because beneath all the chaos, people aren't hopeless, they're just disillusioned. They know something old died but haven't named what's replacing it yet. What's coming isn't dystopia, it's recalibration. A civilization learning to live without illusions. It'll look cold at first, but so did every revolution before it, learned greats. The winners won't be the loud, or even the rich. They'll be the lucid, the ones who stayed grounded while everyone else drowned in stimulation. They'll know when to engage, when to detach, when to build, when to disappear. They'll treat time like art, attention like currency, and peace like property. That's what wealth will mean in the century ahead. Sovereignty disguised as serenity. So what's left for the rest of us? The same choice every era offers: adapt or fade. Learn the rules of the new game, or get used to watching others play. The culture will reward discipline disguised as nonchalance. The calm, efficient operators who seem untouched by chaos because they built lives too solid to shake. That's the secret. Stability looks arrogant when you're anxious. But it's not arrogance, it's preparation. We're entering an age where those who master themselves inherit the freedom others keep demanding. It's not fair, it's functional. And history, as always, favors the functional. The noise will keep getting louder. The calm will keep getting richer. Those who can think clearly when everyone else reacts emotionally will own the future, because the future is a bandwidth problem. And most people are already buffering. When the dust settles, success will look simple. Quiet mornings, meaningful work, a few loyal allies, total sovereignty. No slogans, no spectacle, just control. And maybe, finally, peace. The story isn't over. This was the Anarchist File.